Talk about kicking a man when he's down. And by the way, the man is West Ham in this instance. Whenever someone or something is under pressure, it just seems to be that everyone piles in. And I think there's a sort of avalanche. It's just one after another bits of bad news. And unfortunately, I'm here today to give you a little bit more bad news. If it was just a sort of scurrilous rumour, then, oh, look, we might discuss it, but I certainly wouldn't be discussing it with any sense of gravity. But, you know, I'm afraid this is just true, that the source behind this rumour is 100%. It really is. So what am I talking about? What on earth are you banging on about, Gonzo, I can hear you asking? I'm talking about Lucas Paqueta and the fact that he is, well, he wants out of West Ham. He really does. And you can't blame him. The club is a mess at the moment. The new word seems to be optics, doesn't it, when you're viewing something? How something look from the outside? Optics. Simon Jordan uses that on TalkSport all the time. And I've got to say, the optics of West Ham at the moment are not particularly good. I think if you're looking at it, you're not really seeing something that's massively, that you massively want to be involved in. I think for a player like Lucas Paqueta, who's an artist, but he's sort of an artist with a crap brush and a terrible canvas, and I think if he goes somewhere else, he's going to be given better material to enable him to paint a more beautiful picture. Let's put it that way to keep the artist analogy going. He wants out. He's not the only one, and people seem to be lining up to exit West Ham, and I think we find ourselves at a crucial and a pivotal moment, actually, because if he does leave, and I'll give you the reason, I'll give you what's been said in just a second. If he does leave, and I think he will, then we have ourselves a massive rebuilding programme on our hands. And that's no good thing for David Moyes. And it sort of comes down to, do you want David Moyes to oversee this rebuilding programme? The last time that we had an influx of players was actually when we brought Paqueta in. We bring in 7 players or something like that. And Moyes was very much saying, this is the start of last season, David Moyes was saying, it's going to take us, we're struggling because we're struggling to integrate the players. Do you remember that? We're trying to introduce a different style of football. We're trying to integrate new players. We would be looking at a similar overhaul on this point. If we all would perhaps agree that we'd be looking at 2 full-backs, which would be a right-back, a replacement for Aaron Cresswell, not necessarily everyone starting, but a squad overhaul. If we would perhaps concede that, having lost Saïd Benrahma and Pablo Fornals, and we were chasing Ibrahim Osman, that there is a place on the left side of midfield up for grabs. Sorry, I should be counting at the moment. So that's 3. I think it's safe to say we'd be looking at a new centre-half. Would that be fair enough? I think so. Either Calvin Phillips goes and we replace him, or we sign him up as well. We've got a centre-forward also, and then we've got Lucas Paqueta. There's your 7 again. And I don't think that I'm being sensationalistic by saying that. I think that's a reasonable amount. That's a rebuild. I also think it's important to factor in we have the 2nd oldest squad in the Premier League. I was actually, believe it or not, I was pleased that Roy Keane, during the half-time interval at the Arsenal game, said West Ham looked old and tired. I think we look old and tired, but I think it's really important that someone from the outside says that, because so much of the commentary on West Ham, I'm not talking about the games, I'm talking overall commentary, overall punditry, a lot of the journalistic views on West Ham are very, very supportive of David Moyes. They don't understand why the West Ham fan base might be as annoyed as it is. So I think it was quite important for somebody else to look at West Ham and say, well, that's not right. Well, what's going on there? West Ham look old and tired for a very good reason, and that's because we're old and tired. We've played a ridiculous number of games. We have the smallest squad in the Premier League. You can't have the oldest and the smallest squad in the Premier League and have European football. Something's got to give. Well, it's given. Gave? Whatever. That's happened. I think now without Lucas Paqueta, because he's so crucial to the way we play, and certainly in the way that we attack, okay, so the story is that he's not going to be available for another month. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad for West Ham. That's only half the story. The other story is that he is challenging the FA. Not only challenging the FA, he's going to sue the FA. He's got a really big legal team, a big successful legal team, who are basically going to sue the FA. They're taking legal action against them. This is going to be an incredible thing to behold, by the way. Because as we understand it, what he blames the FA for is stopping his move to Manchester City. Now, there are a number of clubs who are lining up to sign him. And we have heard this from a very, very good source close to the player. So Man City would come back in for him. Tottenham, that wouldn't be very good, but Tottenham would come in for him. He's got an £80 million buyout clause. Manchester United would come back in for him there. Arsenal, quite possibly. There are a lot of clubs. He wants to leave West Ham. He wants to go to a team that more befitting of a sort of Brazilian playmaker, which is what he is. And he very much considers himself to be innocent of the charges, the betting allegations levelled against him. So he's going to bet. He's going to basically take the FA to court. This is where the FA are in a little bit of a sticky situation, actually, because the FA actually govern the game, but they don't really get the money. It's the Premier League that get the money. The FA, in many respects, are a broken entity. We're getting into a whole different set of subjects here, which I'm not going to get into it at all. It's actually quite boring. My point is, I'm not sure the FA have got the wherewithal or massively the financial resources to fight this all the way. They're going to have to be very, very committed to their course of action to really push this through. So it's going to be interesting. How long it drags on for, I don't know. But Lucas Paqueta wants to leave. He wants this wrapped up before the summer so he can leave West Ham. The overall picture means for the rebuild of West Ham. And I just think that's a really, really good opportunity if we've got to rebuild to just get a new manager in. I don't particularly have the stomach to see David Moyes do all this again. I don't want to see a David Moyes rebuild. He's 4 years into the job. We've seen it. We're at the end of his cycle. And I think it's one thing saying I'm grateful for what he does. I don't want to just say the words and pay lip service to it. I am grateful. I am really grateful for the trophy. And you know what? I'll always remember that. And not just that, I think David Moyes led us really well through COVID. And there's got to be some value in that there really has. I don't want to forget everything he's done that's good. But by the same token, if what we have to do is start afresh and we're getting 7 new players, we probably need to change the style of play. We have a director of football in at the moment. I'm sort of done with it, basically. I'm done. I don't need to see any more of it. And I hope that everyone can depart on good terms. I feel that won't be the case because what's probably going to happen at the moment is he's got to, at some point during the next month, and it could be a month to 6 weeks before Paqueta's back, find a new way of playing that allows us to create goals. I'm not sure he can. I'm not sure he's capable. And I don't mean that to be an insult. He tried that last season. He tried to implement a different way of playing. It didn't work. He's not very good at it. He's got one way of playing. And it's in terms of him and his career and over 1,000 games, it's made him operate at the top level in the sort of the Premier League for pretty much all of his career. And when he was at Preston, did he still get? He still got them promoted, didn't he? I think he got them promoted to the Championship. It probably wasn't called the Championship then, but you get what I'm saying. But I don't think he's equipped. So I think he's equipped to stay up there. I don't think he's equipped to manage a big squad. I don't think he's equipped for the overhaul, and I don't think he's equipped to get a team playing any differently than his style. There's a Malay. There is a. I say Malay. I'm going to say the word. I think there's a depression around West Ham at the moment. I do, and I think now is a really, really good time to almost clear everything out. And by the way, I also think it would be a really good time for the ownership to go as well. I just sort of want to say that as well. I don't know. I can't be on my own in this, and I've got to say thank you so much for the comments over the last few days. Been really wonderful comments on the chat. Really good interactions. Some people seem to enjoy a good rant. Hey, do you know what? It helps me let off steam when I'm having a little ranty poos, so to speak. It really does. It sort of is a little bit cathartic there, particularly when you're sort of frustrated and annoyed with West Ham. So thanks for all the interactions. Thanks for everybody that's been watching the videos. Really appreciate it. I mean, if you haven't subscribed to the channel before, would really appreciate if you subscribe now and ding the bell. Not a real bell. There's a little bell icon down there if you can press that. And if you really enjoyed a rant, one of the biggest things you can do for the channel is share a video on social media. Is absolutely wonderful. We'd very, very much appreciate that. If you'd like to also, while you're here, support Hammers Chat, you can go and take a look at our Patreon channel, which is patreon.com/Hammers Chat. Actually, later on today, I'm going to be interviewing Ian Bishop, doing a live Q&A on there. Look, Bish wasn't happy with West Ham or David Moyes before the Arsenal game. I'm going to go and get his views on that, so that should be really interesting. Where does David Moyes go with this Lucas Paqueta business, though, this season? So I think we've got twofold. We've got Lucas Paqueta wanting to leave. That's one problem, and I think that probably spells the end for David Moyes. Then we've got Lucas Paqueta not being available for now. We're just not equipped to deal with it. Do you know who we miss right now? It's Manuel Lanzini. Because he was probably the one player capable for a month of stepping in and providing that creative role. Not to the same standard as Paqueta, but he was a creative, tricky player who could spot a pass. We don't actually have one. I think Pablo Fornal has obviously gone to Real Betis. He possibly could have played that role. I think the play, I mean, he scored straight away, didn't he, Fornal for Real Betis? It was... If you ever want to see an example of someone with the weight of the world lifted off his shoulders, it's Pablo Fornals. Fornals at West Ham was Fornals, and now he's been unfornals. He's gone over there, he scored a wonderful goal. He's able to express himself, play with some freedom. And I think that's probably a bit of a sign for anyone. Fornals is a popular guy in the West Ham dressing room, and there'll be a lot of goodwill towards him that he's gone and is enjoying himself. And he would have fed that back. People would have been saying, he would have got messages, he would have got text messages, people saying, hey, how are you getting on? Pablo, how's things over there? He probably would have said it's wonderful. Honestly, I feel like a new man. I've got a new lease of life. I'm enjoying training. He would have been saying all of those kind of things. And I think that makes it really difficult for anybody else. And other players probably looking at it thinking, do you know what? I quite fancy about that. I'd quite like out too. And it's got to be this. It's like the cartoons, like Looney Tunes, isn't it? Like the Acme cloud that sort of follows Wile E. Coyote around. You get the impression that there's that dark rain cloud following West Ham at the moment and everything that happens there. I don't think the Paqueta injury. And I keep mentioning it, and I will keep mentioning it because I want to keep it prominent. I want to keep it out, and I want to keep it fresh in my mind, and I want to keep it fresh in your mind. And more importantly, even if there's one person at West Ham that watches these videos, I want to keep it in their mind as well. That what happened in the January transfer window was a dereliction of duty, not whoever's fault it is, and without anybody coming out and saying whose fault it is, I'm blaming everyone. Not the tea lady, not Beryl. I really do. To find yourselves in a situation where you don't have a replacement attacking midfielder, to find yourself in a position where you don't have a replacement left winger, to find yourself in this situation where you've not purchased a striker, where you have a completely unbalanced. I couldn't even. Nobody can even argue with me on that. I wouldn't even. I'm happy to argue and debate most football things. I wouldn't even debate with anyone that we have an unbalanced squad. We really do. The squad lacks balance. It's as simple as that. And the fact that either nobody, there's one of two things are true here. Either nobody at the club noticed that the squad was unbalanced and they thought, you know what, we can get by with this, or they noticed it and they did naff all about it. Either one is an unpalatable set of circumstances for me. So I think we find ourselves in a situation at the moment which was completely avoidable. And that is, sometimes you're unfortunate in life. Sometimes things happen and you find yourself in a situation not of your making, and you find yourself a victim of circumstance. This is not one of those situations. West Ham find themselves in a position completely of their own making. And that makes me annoyed, as you probably been able to tell over the past 2 or 3 days. Calm me down a bit now. But as I say, now it just feels like avalanche after avalanche of this bad news. It's a little bit overwhelming, isn't it, actually? And I think we need to turn that frown upside down, but I don't think we're going to be able to do it instantly. And I think now it is really time to plot a strategy. All that's going to happen, I may be wrong. I may be sat here after on Saturday when it's 3 o'clock kickoff Saturday. I may be sat here on Saturday after the Nottingham Forest game, and David Moyes has managed to plot a course and plot a way through, and we've got a win, and things start to look a lot better. Maybe Mikel Antonio's come back and he makes the difference. Because we were able to win games without Lucas Paqueta. Let's make that point. But we also did have Declan Rice, didn't he? It was a big player and a very, very good player. Maybe David Moyes can turn it around. And what I don't want to do is sort of have him... I'm not making an appraisal on David Moyes based on what might happen over the next few games. I see some people and they say, oh, well, I know he's going to lose against Forest. I know he's going to lose against Brentford and Burnley. They're three of the next 4 games. Well, I don't know that he is, and I'm certainly there's enough wrong at the club without me predicting and being Mystic Meg and factoring in future events which haven't happened yet. I don't want to do that, but I'm concerned for Nottingham Forest. I am. I'm concerned for the fixture, not concerned for them as a club. And I think if this carries on and we are to go on a losing run now, there is no value to retaining David Moyes because this cloud of depression just stays hanging over the club. And I look at it now and I think with people wanting to leave, with Tim Stuyten's interview, who's obviously over in Germany and speaking to the German press, with players leaking stuff to their agents or other sources, I think it's probably time for a clean sweep, a bit of a spring clean, if you like, and to get some form of uplift in the club. And I think it's almost like this again. We're back to the binary decisions of the modern age. It's either this or that. It's black or it's white. Well, not necessarily. So I think the club's opinion appears to be at the moment, we either keep David Moyes or we get rid of David Moyes. But both of those decisions are at the end of the season. There's no point in replacing David Moyes now. And that is whether if they're going to get rid of him, they'll get rid of him at the end of the season. It's sort of either or. Actually, there is a middle ground, and that is that quite possibly somebody coming in now might give everybody an uplift. They might, and I mean everybody, and I mean you and me as well, and they might give the crowd an uplift. They might make the stadium a better place to be. They might make the training ground a better place to be. Ultimately, West Ham might just be a better place to work, and a more enjoyable place to work, I should say that, and a more enjoyable team to follow. You might find yourself approaching Saturday or Sunday or whenever the games are with a bit of a spring in your step, with a little bit of hope. I think you might find it might inject a little bit of ambition and hope and joy into the academy, because I do find the whole West Ham experience to be quite a joyless experience at the moment. I said the other day that I feel like the joy, and in many respects, not fully the hope, because I am hopeful in some point in the future, but certainly the joy has been sucked out of it, and that's not a good thing. And I think that one of the biggest problems we've got with the ownership is that they're blind to that. That does not register with them, and I think there's no way of conveying that. I think sometimes if you don't get it, you just don't get it. That's the eternal saying about talking to a brick wall. I don't think they understand. I just don't. I really don't. There was confusion, certainly, within the top echelons of the club. Why did all those people walk out? That's not helpful. Why did they walk out against Arsenal? They don't get it. They do not understand. And just sometimes you can explain things so many times to somebody, they're just not going to get it. There is just no point. There's something's a little connection missing up there. And I guess they're looking at it as owners rather than fans. But it can be, quite joyless. And anyway, listen, I'm rambling on. It's not even a rant anymore. It's just a ramble. And I'm sorry I've taken up nearly 20 minutes of your time. So I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to say bonjour to you now, as he said. I'll catch up with you tomorrow, hopefully with some better news. I'm not totally and utterly convinced that that'll be the case. As I say, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all your interactions, but brilliant messages, brilliant debate over the last few days. Done really, really pleasantly as well. I've got to say, it's difficult. I was Mr. Ranty Pants the other day, wasn't I? It's difficult not to be agitated at times like this, but I think sometimes it helps, doesn't it, to speak about it, or to type. Probably no one's typing. You're probably all using your phones, but to type it out, and that's what the comment section's for, right? It's for expressing, particularly at times like this, your own frustrations with West Ham, which are going to be numerous and multiple. Anyway, catch up with you later. Thanks as ever for tuning in and watching the channel.